swelled before him like a great shadow. The shadows could be polluted. Dirty brown darkness leaked towards.
Brandon was a little lost for words. He couldn't articulate what had happened the night before.
He continued to back away despite being curiously drawn to the menacing form.
He had crashed on his computer, written something profound, but didn't remember doing it.
The creature's shape seemed familiar, and yet utterly alien.
Once cursed by his cursor, Brandon had now experienced a creative surge during a complete blackout. He would say the writing was self-conscious.
How much coffee can you intake before you make a big mistake?
But he had in truth been unconscious.
He saw that his story was that of a man who thought he was in control of his own destiny. But
yet this was just the tip of the iceberg. Had he written 109 pages while completely out cold?
Drinking that 13th cup of espresso opened a gateway into his mind through which a creature named Caffeine Dough let himself in.
Caffeine Dough? What rubbish. And yet he had drawn a mysterious creature on his legal pad. Mysterious in that he didn't remember its birth. What was it? From what crevice of his mind did it emerge? And why was it wearing a hat? Brandon also left a lot of ideas on his dictaphone. But not only were the ideas weird, his voice was weird.
They were not a subtle mutation of the genome. They were wholly new creatures pulled from the mind of some dark god.
Did he really sound like that?
I am an owl. I see all. I see all. I see all with my big eyes.
Talking about owls? What madness was this? After weeks of not a tinkle on his phone, suddenly his mailbox was full.
Hey, Brandon, the answer is up there.
Who were all these people leaving funny messages?
Out there.
It was no laughing matter.
I know what you did, Brandon.
What had he done? Yesterday he was certain he had done absolutely nothing.
I had this dream recently, and you were in it. When I found I couldn't run anymore, you were there.
That sounded like his girl, didn't it?
No, it sounds crazy.
He could barely remember what her voice was like, what her face was like.
Okay.
Since when was she American?
Bye.
It was like someone had skipped an episode in the box set of his life, and there was no previously on Brandon generator to help. Last night should have been a triumph, but all this inspiration was giving him perspiration. This was very peculiar. Perhaps coffee would help. Yes, he could always count on his espresso pods. But no, he was podless, bereft of caffeine, Java minus, a big brown hole in his very core. Brandon was going out of his mind. Maybe he would have to go out of his flat. Maybe Random Guy was right. The answer was out there. He should take his prose. It might make more sense in the cold light of day. 109 pages. Where did he get this second wind? There were more. What had inspired these sketches of his unconscious? It was time to vanquish these demons with sunlight. It had been a long time since he'd ventured out. But maybe this was a good thing, to clear his head, although his mind didn't need any more erasing. If only he could decipher the night before. The sun felt awfully bright when he went out that morning. Was it usually this brilliant? Or had his laptop turned him into an AV golem, hunched over the keyboard with monitor eyes and an LCD tam? He didn't know the answer to any of this. Maybe music was the answer. Fresh air, music, coffee. Yes, in that order, but with coffee first and second. This was more like it. Wind in his hair, music on the stereo, pretty girl walking by, white sun beating down, not a car on the road, another pretty girl walking by. This song was cool. This song was his jam. This song was not one that he'd ever heard before. Who was it? Word Salad by Sergeant Catherfumph. What the hell? When did he download that? Maybe all this fresh air was going to his head. Maybe he just needed a coffee. Yeah. Coffee, good. Espresso, good. Espresso gone. A world coffee shortage. What kind of a world is that? The word literally is overused, but this was literally his worst nightmare in every sense. Brandon bent down to lick his spilt lifeblood, when the wind conspired to take the words right out of his coat. His prose that had come out of thin air was now very much in the air, and it was all going so well. The blinding white beating down, the wind all over his face, the city devoid of all life, the weird jam in his ears, the same pretty girl walking by. Wait a second. He'd seen the same girl 3 times. How was that possible? She wasn't like some looping cactus in wacky races. It was the same girl. Was it his girl? The voice he heard earlier. His girl who meant so much to him that he couldn't place her face? He had a photo of her somewhere. Somewhere. Either way, maybe she would know what was going on. Why there was a coffee shortage. Why nobody was on the streets. Why the sun felt so very white. He could at least ask her if she really dreamt about him last night. He ran after her, but it felt like he wasn't moving. The background was. Wait, what was this? Things were getting a little sketchy now. This area was not familiar to him, no matter how many times he ran past the same backdrop. If she would just stop, he was sure she would make it all clear to him. Brandon turned the corner, and suddenly it was all clear. Too clear. This wasn't the world as he knew it. It was the world as no one knew it. It just ceased to exist. Brandon liked being master of his universe, but not this much. He was staring into the blank void yet again. He must turn back, get back to what he knew to be true, what was real in his own mind. But this was not good. This was starting to get very sketchy indeed. What was once a drawing was now drawing very close. And by God, it smelled. It reeked of coffee. Was he to be destroyed by his own creation? Doodled to death? If he had to face as a figment of his imagination, couldn't it be that cute mystery girl and not this? A creature made of the missing Java, his greatest ally, now his darkest, richest foe. Was he to die by the claws of Cafindo? And if so, couldn't he have come up with a better name? Brandon was stuck again, but in a very different way. Trapped once again by the blinding white of the void. Trapped in a world half-built and unfinished. How was he going to write himself out of this one? Or draw himself out of this one? Save himself? I'm not asking rhetorical questions. I'm literally asking for your help. Begging for your help. Please. Help.